Yeah, I'm Simon Callan from Telefonica. So I'm going to take a slightly different tact. We've heard a lot about app stores, discovery, numbers of apps in stores, merchandising, curation, and I think I want to talk about what Telefonica is doing with Firefox OS and our view of the world when it comes to some of these key things that affect not only developer experiences but consumer experiences as well. So, how many of you know Telefonica? Good, okay. Right. So, I actually work for one of our groups called Telefonica Digital. So Telefonica, as most of you know, is a carrier. We have 300 million subscribers around the world. O2 in the UK and Germany, Movistar in LATAM, Vivo in Brazil are all Telefonica properties. And then Telefonica Digital is a new piece of Telefonica set up to really capitalise on digital opportunities. So looking at things like, get out of the way of the screen, M2M, advertising, video, comms, e-health. And then we also work with a bunch of smaller companies that we've acquired or we invest in, things like Wayra, which is an incubator for startups, and Firefox OS, or we call it Open Web Devices in Telefonica, is one of the top 3 initiatives for us this year as a company. So Firefox OS, how many of you have heard of Firefox OS? Half of you, okay, right. So about a year ago, Mozilla announced they were bringing Firefox onto mobile. So taking that history they have of disrupting the web in terms of Firefox on desktop, and bringing that experience to mobile to create an HTML5 based platform. And at Mobile World Congress this year, 18 carriers announced their intention to release Firefox OS devices, and 5 OEMs announced their intention to produce Firefox devices. And Telefonica is one of those carriers that is launching, or has launched Firefox OS actually. So we launched in Spain in June, we launched in Venezuela and Colombia in July, and then over the coming few months we're launching in Brazil, Mexico, and some other LATAM countries. And I think next year we'll evolve into the O2 properties in terms of UK and Germany. And as you can see, there's a number of carriers supporting this initiative. So Telenor and Deutsche Telekom have either launched or are about to launch imminently. American Mobile, I suspect, is going to launch in the coming 2 or 3 months. And then people like Sprint and other carriers will announce their plans over the coming months. Next slide. So why is Telefonica doing this? Well, I think pretty much everyone agrees in the industry now that having this duopoly of Google and iOS is unhealthy for developers, for OEMs, for carriers. These control points that exist today around the store, around billing, around what you can and can't put in your store, around discovery mechanisms, I think are really starting to become an issue for the industry. And we've seen lots of these initiatives come and go. We've seen Migo, Symbian, Limo, all of these various things. And I think what tends to happen when a new initiative comes along is 15 carriers will announce their intention to support an initiative. There's not really any devices that are produced. It doesn't really turn into reality. The things just die quite quickly. There are a collection of, carriers like to support every single platform and every single initiative because they fear that if they're not part of that party, then they'll miss out. But quite often these things translate into nothing, or they fail quite quickly. So for Telefonica, we think Firefox has got a great chance of succeeding. It's got real OEM support behind it. It's got real carrier support, carriers who are actually either launching devices or putting investment into launching devices. It's not just lip service. But I think it's important to say this is not an anti Google or anti-Samsung or anti-iOS position from Telefonica, certainly. And it's not anti-Tizen or anti-BlackBerry. It's actually the incentive for Telefonica is to start leveling the playing field in terms of creating this open ecosystem. And I often speak to our PR guys about our position on Tizen or BlackBerry or other platforms, and our stance is really clear. Success for us is that other players adopt this open approach. Success isn't actually selling 1 billion Firefox devices, or that Samsung, our dependence on Samsung reduces, or we don't ship, BlackBerries. Success is that other players adopt this open ecosystem. Next slide. And I think a key part of, or just to rewind and talk about Telefonica and the way we're positioning this, because I think a lot of people can look at this, look at Firefox and say, it's not quite an iPhone, is it? Screens aren't great, or where's NFC, or where's XYZ. For us, this is about first-time smartphone users in our footprint, which is predominantly LATAM. So in Spain, for example, the Firefox OS device we launched 2 months ago, the ZTE, was €69 with a €30 credit for data and SMS. So it's actually a €39 device. We don't subsidise in Spain anymore, so we've cut subsidies. In Venezuela and Colombia, again, similar pricing. The press in Venezuela are calling these phones the people's phone, which is not something that we've...
They come in red.
But it's not something that we've proactively spoken about, but it's great to hear that feedback from the market. And then I think a real definition of openness is ZTE selling the device, the Open, on eBay in the US and the UK. Next slide. So, one of the themes of today is about kind of removing these barriers and how do we evolve the app ecosystem. Next slide. So I think with Firefox, there are a number of ways that you can, or developers can get their apps discovered. So there is a store on the device. There is a Firefox marketplace. Developers can submit their apps. Movistar or Vivo or O2 can merchandise apps and do the usual featured things and highlight apps. Kind of the old or today's model. There's a really cool thing on these devices called dynamic search. So, we kind of think the concept of this single store control point is, I'm not saying it's going to die, but I think it's becoming a real pain point for everyone in the value chain. So dynamic search is really about opening the web up to consumers and surfacing apps in a way that's familiar to consumers in terms of making these things look like apps, but it's mobile web. So packaging mobile web, making it look like apps, allowing those to be discovered, allowing developers to use their existing search and SEO techniques, not controlling who appears in these top results. If you're a developer and you've got an app and it's a quality app and people are using it and your SEO is working well, you could appear at the top of the list. We're not manually controlling this. And then obviously with HTML5, if you can host the sites yourselves, merchandise and discover and populate your app discovery wherever you want to. And you see people like the FT in the UK who don't put their app in store. I mean, they have an HTML5 site and they do quite well out of it. And I want to talk about this dynamic search just a bit more because I think it's one of the key things that we see as a differentiator, not only for Firefox but for HTML5 as well, and the openness. Go to the next one.
Quick question. Which of those apps already exist on that platform?
On Firefox OS?
Yeah.
So I think we, two things. We actually think the numbers of apps in store game is dead. Whether you've got 10,000 apps, 5,000 apps, 1 million apps, who cares actually? It's the apps that matter to you. So dynamic search is really about opening the web to consumers on Firefox and HTML5 devices. So there is the number of apps is how big is the web? Does that make sense?
Seeing is believing. I know.
Right, let's play the video and then hopefully you'll believe.
Hi, my name is Jonathan, and I'm here to show you an amazing new way for you to interact with your phone. Here to help me is my lovely assistant, my twin brother, Max. Think of your smartphone. Every time you open it, you get exactly the same apps. You want to go to the movies? Same apps. You want to grab something to eat? Same apps. It's static. It's always the same. Imagine your phone could be dynamic, constantly adapting to your life, changing to whatever is on your mind. Let's say I want to watch a movie, say Skyfall. Look at that. Now my phone is all about James Bond. The background is James Bond. All the apps are about James Bond. Even when you tap an app, it opens with James Bond. I can get tickets from Fandango, even though I've never installed it. Everything James Bond. This is the dynamic phone. It gets what you want and instantly adapts. Max, what about your phone? Still the same. Until the movie begins, I feel like listening to some music. I'm thinking Adele. Voila! It's like a brand new phone. Hey, Metro Lyrics. I want this on my phone. Just tap and hold. Boom. You got it. What about you, Max? Still the same. I'm getting hungry. How about some sushi? Nice to meet you, Sushi Phone. The apps I get show me sushi places nearby. Max, still the same? Yep. How's the sushi? Best I've ever had. What you really need is a dynamic phone. A phone that gets you and instantly adapts. To get your dynamic phone, simply go to firefox.com and get it. Or you can stay the same. We won't judge you.
So to answer your question, if you go into the Firefox OS marketplace, there's no LinkedIn app in there. There's no Flickr app. There's no CNN app. It doesn't matter. You put up dynamic search, type in news, and you're getting CNN. You're getting New York Times. You're getting Reuters. You're getting BBC. So this central control point that Android and iOS have today around the store and what they choose to show consumers starts becoming a thing of the past.
Or let me rephrase, as a developer, how do I appear on the screen?
So it's the same method you use on the web. So it's SEO, it's having a high quality app, it's relevance to the consumer search term.
How does the consumer pay me?
So there, if you go on to the next slide, I'll come on to that. Payments, there we go. So there is straight man. There is, and I think some of the guys mentioned it earlier. Certainly for us in LATAM, payments is a massive issue. I mean, with credit card penetration in LATAM being, I think it's 15% maybe, with Brazil having crazy regulations around you can spend $100 on a credit card per year. Payments is a massive issue. There's two things here. We have carrier billing integrated into Firefox OS. There's an API you can call to use carrier billing within your site, whether it's discovered through the store or whether it's your own mobile site you're hosting yourself. And the second thing is there is the control point of payments and billing again starts reducing with HTML5 and Firefox OS. So if you're a developer and you want to put your app in store and you want to use in-app payments or in-app billing, use whatever payments provider you want. You're not forced to use the store provider. You're not forced to give a cut of your revenue to the store. It's up to you. Next slide. And then again, kind of back to the store control point. So we see lots of examples these days of certainly Apple on iOS removing apps because Apparatus was one of the big famous cases where you can't put your own marketplace effectively in the store. Again, with Firefox OS and HTML5, if you've got a store and you want to put it in the store to be discovered, fine, do it. It's up to you. If you're a games provider and you've got a game store, put it in store. No control points. Fragmentation we've heard a lot about, and we know it's becoming a much larger issue with Android. I think we'd be foolish to say there is no work required as you take your app across multiple HTML5 platforms. But the key thing is, developers are developing for the web today. So actually taking that experience and a mobile web experience across the Firefox OS or other HTML5 platforms is actually negligible. For LinkedIn, for example, we've got a really high quality HTML5 app. Getting that working across on Firefox OS is minimal work. We're not asking developers and we're not asking the web to rewrite their apps in a native format. Next slide. I think we're nearly there. And I think I know I saw a quote the other day from Mozilla that said ultimately the web is going to be the only ecosystem. I actually think the web. We think the web is going to be the primary ecosystem. And if you look at even iOS and Android apps today, 40–50% of those apps are actually HTML5 just packaged up for the store. We really believe in this single code base across web and mobile. Next one. That's it.
That's correct.